Casual dismissal of men's mental health is a prevalent issue in today's society. It's a silent epidemic, often masked by the age-old adage of man up or be strong. But strength isn't about suffering in silence. It's about acknowledging feelings, seeking help, and breaking free from the chains of stigma. Bravado and resilience are often conflated, yet they are not the same. Admitting to struggles doesn't make one weak, it makes one human. It's time we recognize that mental health doesn't discriminate on the basis of gender. From anxiety to depression, PTSD to bipolar disorder, men grapple with a myriad of mental health issues. The first step towards change is awareness. So let's shine a spotlight on men's mental health because it matters just as much. Remember, it's okay not to be okay. Reach out, seek help, and let's foster a world where mental health is a conversation, not a taboo.
Legacy Foundation and A Few Good Men, in partnership with Local Motion and NYCC, present Secrets to Success, the men's mental health and wealth creation podcast. Yes, Wellbeing Wednesdays are back by popular demand from 7:30 to 9:30 GMT, starting on the 21st of February and every Wednesday after that till the end of March. As always, we'll be keeping it real, confronting the tough topics for a better tomorrow. Suicide, unemployment, homelessness, fatherless families, abortion, writing wills, serious youth crime and violence, divorce, breakups, breakdowns, trauma, grief, healthy relationships, parenting, education, healthcare, self-care, wealth care. Join us for Wellbeing Wednesdays. Offload, get interactive, and enjoy giveaways. Listen to the Men's Mental Health and Wealth Creation podcast. We need the best of us, inspiring the rest of us. Sisters, we need to be part of this too. Big shout out to Local Motion, supporting mental health and well-being services for people living in Enfield.
Hey, take some videos, Jason. Good evening, and welcome to the 6th episode of our second series called Secrets to Success, a Men's Mental Health Wealth Creation podcast. Thank you for joining us for our last episode. It's going to be an exciting episode. I'm very excited to learn, to hear from our special guests. We have two guests. My name is Marlon Morris, one of the hosts. I'm joined by two other hosts. They'll introduce themselves. I just want to thank you all for those who have firstly joined. It's the first time joining us, but those that have been with us from the beginning. It's been enlightening, educational, motivational, and there's a lot of insight that we've got from these discussions and this platform. Talking about men's mental health. So I'm going to hand over to my friend, Mark, as he comes in and sets the tone for what we're here for.
I'd like to say good evening to each and everybody. As Marlo said, this is the 6th and final episode of this series, and I've got to say, I don't know about you guys, it's been very enlightening, very thought-provoking, and it's given me lots of different things to think about and changing your point of view on certain things. First and foremost, if you enjoy what we do, share, spread the word. So like, subscribe to the link, so then you'll get adverts to when we're coming back with season 3. So it's very important that you like and subscribe and share it to like-minded people. Now, just to set the tone for the evening, we have our evening sermon. May his wisdom and guidance flow through every word spoken. May this show serve as a catalyst for change, breaking down barriers, fostering understanding between men and women. I pray that as these conversations unfold, men will find solace in knowing that they are not alone in their struggles. May they feel empowered to open up, share their experiences, and seek the support they need to heal and grow. May the stories shared on this show inspire men towards becoming the best version of themselves. May they find the strength to confront their inner demons, break free from social expectations, and embrace their true selves. I pray that these conversations will also ignite a spark within families, communities, and the nation as a whole. May they serve as a reminder that true change starts from within, and that by addressing the needs of men, we can create a ripple effect that positively impacts everyone around us. May women, as they listen and take note, gain a deeper understanding of the unique challenges men face. May they learn how to provide the support, love, and understanding that men need, without judgment or expectations. May they become allies in this journey towards healing and growth, standing side by side with their men in their lives. And as these initial conversations pave the way for something greater, I pray that doors will open, opportunities will arise, and resources will be made available to further support men's mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. May this show be just the beginning of a movement that brings about lasting change and a renowned sense of purpose for men everywhere. In all of this, I give thanks to the Most High, our Heavenly Father, for his presence and guidance. May his love and grace surround each participant and listener, creating a safe space for vulnerability, growth, and transformation. May this show be a testament to his power to heal, to restore, and may it bring glory to his name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. My name's Scott. I'm one of the hosts here, and my background, I do lots of therapeutic work and provide services with clinical supervision. And that's part of why I'm here today, to provide some containment, some knowledge, and some wisdom. And we've got two guests here today. I think our first guest, his name is George. I'm going to do a little conversation with George in a minute, and then we've got our second guest. After our break at 8:30, she will be really interactive and engaging with the audience. And she's done some fantastic work behind the scenes, where she's got some real research and some real knowledge that she's gone out in her community and she's garnered to inform the show. So I want to just do a little recap. I think it might be helpful for the audience outside if we just did a little recap of last week's show. I don't know if you want to touch on that, or if you want me to touch on the recap of last week.
You can share it.
We can
Go
share
ahead.
it.
Go ahead, sir.
Let's dance together. So last week was a testimony. Last week we had two amazing young men here. One was George, and the other one's name was.
Well, no, rewind.
No.
George is here today.
So we had
Last week.
Chris and Samuel.
Chris and Samuel. Apologies. I have dyslexia, so name recall doesn't stay in my head. That's one of the things about
No, man, you're not dyslexia, you just never remember.
No, I don't remember names.
No, you call it posh word for
No.
forget.
You know,
That's all
it's
it
really, it's, I think it's ironic, because part of our mental well-being is understanding that we have neurodiverse needs.
No, you're just getting old, bro.
I know it is. I know it is. You know, one of the things that I like about this show, even though we can be professional and articulate, we don't forget where we come from.
Yeah.
Of course.
So I'm from a Jamaican background, and probably some of you guys will experience this. In my house, there's lots of us. So you know, your parents sometimes, it's not Mark, it might be Sharon, Leonard, Tony, and then it's him. It's him. So yeah, so a little humor about the name recall. But no, the guests we had last week, they were phenomenal and powerful. And the young man that sat to my left, he told his journey about his transformation, Chris, from being heavily involved in a pro-criminal lifestyle where he nearly lost his life. He was assaulted a few times, and he gave a really powerful testimony around his encounter with Marlo, how they met, and how he's kind of given his life to Christ, and how he's just transformed who he is, and his whole demeanor, everything about him just looked like it was such a powerful transformation of where he was. And then we had the other young man that was to my right,
Samuel.
And Samuel, he gave a testimony about his journey. And the highlight of his testimony, I think, was when he spoke about when he went to Jamaica. We had this pastor, your pastor, that invited him to Jamaica, and he thought he wasn't going to speak. And at the last day...
Yeah, Bishop Malcolm, Pastor Malcolm. Big up Bishop Malcolm, yeah.
Big up Bishop. I've never met him, but I've heard good things about him. So he's doing some powerful work. And he spoke about how on the last day of this event, at the last kind of speaker, he thought that Bishop was going to not, and then he called him. So he gave a testimony about how he's used that to transform his life. So he does motivational speaking. I think last week, both of them, no, Chris didn't, but the other young man did. He shared these details on social media, because that's the next thing as well. We're talking about men's mental well-being, and social media is a really kind of part of how it can impact men's mental well-being. So both of them kind of said they've taken a step back from that social media influence. And then over the last 6 weeks, we've had some phenomenal guests. We had Anthony. He started our journey, and he spoke about his decline into poor mental well-being, and at the worst stage of his illness, he talked about walking down Enfield with no clothes on. He went through a period of about 5 years.
Yeah, he had schizophrenia and bipolar. And chronic depression.
Yeah, and he spoke about his transformation as well. And he brought a medal. Do you remember the medal, Mark?
I wasn't here.
Oh, you wasn't? No, he wasn't. So he had this medal, Mark, and it was for the... I can't remember if it was called a super
marathon.
Super marathon. So basically, he runs 2 marathons a day.
Oh.
And
you run 300 miles.
His story was powerful, and how his relationship
journey back.
Part of the journey, and that's something else that we're going to be thinking about when we think about men's mental well-being, because we talk about it all the time. Your physical mind and your spiritual mind need to be aligned, and if one is off key or off balance, sometimes it can trigger different things in terms of how you feel, how you respond, and so forth. And then we had the week where we had the presenter from Locomotion, one of the sponsors of the show, Paul.
Yeah.
So I wasn't here at that show.
Big up Locomotion.
Yeah.
Big up Locomotion.
Doing big things in Enfield.
Doing big things in Enfield. And then we had a show where it was myself, Mark, and Spencer, where we was just talking about disproportionality, talking about relationships, talking about what is love. We were just chopping it up around a few different subjects, and all of these things related back to men's mental well-being. And then we had the show last week where we had those 2 phenomenal guests, and today we had
Kira, remember?
Kira, that was and she spoke about her
brother and his experience, his lived experience,
his decline in mental health and the support,
and how he engaged with the whole.
She had a powerful story too.
Very powerful.
Yeah. And I apologize. I wasn't here for that week, so I didn't actually get a chance to speak with Kira. But I did watch it, and I think there was some real resonance around disproportionality in the social care system, because they had obviously done some failings and so forth. And that word, I think, is going to resonate with us today in terms of how things disproportionately impact Black men. So we're talking about mental health, we're talking about education, we're talking about employment, we're talking about relationships, all of these things. When you look at some of the data, Black men are quite highly disproportionately represented. So if you look at the prison system, especially young offenders, because that's kind of our bag with me and Mark and Marlo where we do our work. When you go to Felton, for example, at Young Offenders Institute, I think it's about 40% of the inmates there are black. And if you look at society on the whole, the last census, I think we make up about 3.2% of the populace. When you think about,
it's very disproportionate.
Yeah, and if you look at mental health, again, if you look at people that's been sectioned and so forth, again, it's quite high. If you look about policing, if you look about medical kind of disproportionality, it's a really grim fact. If you're a black woman, the chances of you dying during childbirth is higher than everybody else. So the
odds are stacked against us.
Yeah.
But within conversations, networking, building, we try to overcome.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing battle, but we try to overcome. Can I just cut in and say, as it is the final show, one thing that I've got to say, I've been here for 5 of the 6 episodes that we've done this series.
And all of the 4 of
and the previous. But I want to talk about within, like what we're doing. And sometimes we go away from this and think that we're not affecting anybody. But, you know, there's, even if it's one person, there's somebody out there who's taken in what we're saying, who's been affected, who feels the courage, who feels they've got allies and strength. And as we've been giving out flowers over the weeks, I got to say, Mr. Morris, our, you won't like me saying this, the CEO for this production, okay? Although it's a shared platform, the CEO for the production, the man whose idea was to put it together. Over the 6 weeks, I have really been amazed isn't the word to use, want of a better word, but enlightened with the kind of guests that you've plucked out from the community to come in on this platform and share their stories. Yeah. We've all got backgrounds. We've all got colorful backgrounds. Yeah. And there's people that see us to this day and think, yeah, it's bullshit. It's not real. Yeah. See this man here and what he's going on with, I say nothing but respect. Yeah, because the people that you network with, you're involved with, that you bring in to participate in this, if you wasn't about this life now, it wouldn't happen. So, you know, I look forward to season 3, season 4, and we're there. But, you know, as we're giving out with flowers, and if I'm perfectly honest, I wasn't completely on top of my game today. And I've said, like, I'm not coming. And once I heard his little sweet voice on the phone, he's like,
you sweet him up, Mark.
Yeah,
you know
that charm.
I got to say something, Carl.
Marlo is charming.
Mark
Very charming.
Mark is right, yeah? Mark is right. You know, we go through life and we know how we feel about people, but we don't always say it until it's too late. You know what I'm trying to say to you? You know, we go to many funerals and people come with their flowers, you know, say, oh, he was like this and he was like that. You know what I mean? Whether it's good or bad, but it means nothing when you're dead. You know what I'm trying to say to you? Them flowers you don't enjoy flowers when you're dead. You know what I'm trying to say to you? You're giving flowers when people are dead for your own benefit. It's not for the benefit of the person. When you give your flowers to the people when they're alive, it gives them the strength to carry on, because you just don't, especially if you're a person like me that is not really used to hearing praise. You know what I'm trying to say to you? We get on with the work under the radar, and we don't really ask people how they think or feel. We don't really care how people think or feel, to be honest. You understand? But the same people that said, Hail King Jesus, said, crucify him. So you don't really get attached to people's compliments. But when you hear it come from real people, like Marky Mark, like those 2 young youths last week, it's not even them speaking. I hear God speaking through them. I'm trying to say to you, I hear God speaking through them, and it's a type of healing when I hear it. Yeah, I was in tears last week because those boys were 15, 16, 17, and now they're big men in their 30s, 35, 36. And they're telling me, if it wasn't for me, they'd probably be dead, or they'd probably be this or that and whatever else. I didn't know this, because you just do what you do and you don't think nothing of it. But then when you look back and you hear what they're saying, it does touch your heart. And I get it that we're on a time frame, but I would even pay the studio for extra time, because where I look at it like this, we don't know if we're gonna have more time. I'm trying to say to you, and we've got to use the time to edify each other, help each other, support each other, and not to bring each other down. It's a spiritual warfare between good and evil. I'm trying to say, so we've got to err on the side of good rather than the side of evil. It's easy to do evil. You see what I'm trying to say to you? Cain killed his brother. But if we're a brother's keeper, it's important that we encourage each other, we bless each other with kind words, and we support each other, not just with words, but with deeds. Mark was sick when I called him this afternoon, and the man jumped on the train and come from South London to North London because he's committed to the purpose. You understand? And so I want to also give you flowers, Marky Mark, and Scotty, because Scotty's been serving on this platform, from 2020? From 2020, when it comes to the working with the youths in Mossbourne Academy.
Yeah, we've done some
Edmonton County.
Together,
And when we was doing the struggle to success, now we've graduated to the secrets to success. We still get to success.
We're success. You know what? I enjoy listening to you guys' conversation. And one of the things that you said around accepting praise, and I think that's a struggle that a lot of men deal with, because we're told we can't show vulnerability, we can't show weakness. A lot of men don't give their brothers encouragement. They don't give them those emotive words of upliftment, of encouragement, like you're a good person, you're a God-fearing person, or stay blessed in what you do. We work with young people, and one of the things that we practice, and I know this because I've spoken to quite a lot of people, and I've spoken to you too. When we walk down the road, we don't see young people, especially young men, and not give them the nod. Because sometimes, thinking around mental well-being, a lot of black men, they're in that hypervigilant state where they think that every black man is their enemy, because that's what society told them, like, hate your brother. So what we practice is we acknowledge our brothers on the road. So when we're walking, I'm from Northwest London. I go Tottenham, I go south, and like I will see young men, and it's weird because most of us, we look kind of youngish, but we're not young. And sometimes young people will look at us and think, back to Jamaica, that be under my size. But we're not size. But to show them that I'm not a threat, I just flipped the switch. And I think it was Mark Prince that came here, and he spoke about how we think affects how we feel. How we feel affects how we act. So I'm thinking and I'm feeling positively towards myself. So that means I've got to think positively towards you, because you are me. You are me, because this is the unifying thing that we have. So while we're on this show, we're just kind of giving you a little snippet of, these are some of the secrets to success, because some of the secrets to success is to be your brother's keeper, to give your brother his flowers,
Indeed.
to acknowledge the strengths that we have. But I know we got George here. George, you're sitting here patiently. George, tell me a little bit about yourself. I call it a little dance. I'm gonna dance with you for a little bit. So you're George, yeah?
Yeah, George.
George, okay, George. This is, Milo is your brother.
Marlo, Scotty.
Marlo. You know, it's been about 20 years, brother. Just Maggie, your flowers and them thing there, but you know, the name thing I struggle for me.
Say it over.
Marlo.
Yes, sir.
All right. George, tell me how you know Marlo.
Marlo, so Marlo's my foster brother. I had joined this family back when I was about 7. Following sort of, that was like the second time I went into care, just due to my mum just wasn't in a good place to take care of me and my little brother. And you know, we'll probably get into it later, but she had her own issues going on. Anyway, ended up joining Marlo's family until I was 22 when I moved out.
Hold on a second. So sorry. So Marlo's family took you in when you was in the care system.
Yeah.
So there's two aspects to this. There's the care system itself that we're going to talk a little bit about. Just tell me a little bit about what was it like living with Marlo and his family.
Have we got enough time?
Tell me a little bit about what it was like living with Marlo and his family.
Don't get me into trouble, D. But
No, you're not going to be in trouble. You don't want to see Marlo is a changed man. Tell me, what was it like? So you moved in when you were 7 years old.
yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting. Uncle Philip, Marlo's dad, very, very interesting man. Overall, I can't complain. You know, he was a good guy. He did the best that he could to take care of me and my little brother and instill certain things in us. But kind of Marlo said that he grew up not hearing any positive praise, and that was kind of a big highlight that I experienced with him as well. And it was it's interesting because last January I actually went over to go see him, and I don't know how he came onto the topic of conversation, but I ended up really just speaking my mind to Uncle Philip and just saying to him that sort of the way he projected onto us was sort of like he was like a god, and that he was like this wise man that knew everything. But in fact, a lot of the ways he dealt with us was so, like, I don't want to say horrid, but it was horrid at the same time. That kind of, it had the opposite effect of what he wanted to achieve.
Hold on. So this was quite a disciplinarian kind of way how he dealt with you.
Very punitive, punitive, very sort of what I say goes, very domineering. That was sort of his sort of outlook and approach. That, you know, he's head of the household. Unfortunately, saw that sort of coming into the care system following the sort of stuff I experienced with my mom. My birth dad just wasn't around anyway. So going into that at age 7, and don't forget, you know, the first 7 years of your life are like your informative years. That's where a lot of your habits, you know, that will follow you in the future. That's where a lot of it is formed there. And to get like a young child like me and then my little brother as well, I just don't feel like he had the right approach to nurture me to be the person that I should be, if that makes sense. And although he did do a lot of good for me, when I spoke to him last January, the conversation was quite emotional, where I was able to just say, you know, what I needed was someone to recognize what I might have been feeling in those times. I wasn't a bad kid, so he didn't have any problems with me. I wasn't out on the road. I wasn't doing nothing bad. I was in school. So always had potential, but never put enough effort in because I just wasn't nurtured. You know what I mean? When you're going to school and you're thinking about all of these things, like I'm in a house that is not my home, even though they made it as homely for me as possible. You know, you're not with your people. You see what I'm saying? And that could have been nurtured a bit better. My foster sisters and like Marlo and Joseph, they were quite good.
Marlo was good. It was nice having a bigger brother.
It was. Yeah, it was. They were good. But in terms of like my relationship with my foster, especially when I got to about 14, and I started really being able to think for myself, that's when we really started having issues. Whereby sort of, like I said, like he was on a psychological tip where he's like a god. He wants to be the wise counselor and tell you what you should be doing. And I started realizing a lot of things don't make sense. But when I started kind of saying, raw, like, you know what I mean? What do you mean by that? That don't really make sense. I started having my own opinions. That's when he really shone me after that, boy.
When you say shone you, what do you mean?
Because I can't lie, me and him, it wasn't all doom and gloom. You know what I mean? From the start, when I was younger, everything was kind of good. Obviously, I'm like 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm still a child, whatnot. And then I was like the favorite child. You know what I mean? There was a time where I think
you could do no wrong.
My sister Lisa, she told me I was the first child that he actually apologized to. You know what I mean? And don't forget, he had like 4 before me. So that's a big thing. So I was, you know, I was.
There's still a wait for your apology.
you know,
keep waiting.
You gotta keep waiting.
Keep waiting.
There's still a wait for
your
my
apology. It's really interesting, you know, George, because there's so much in this little short conversation that I've kind of elicited around trauma, around attachment theory, around your formative years, around generational trauma. Because Mr. Philip, is his name? That. As a parent, there's no manual. So you do what you were shown. So if you think about Mr. Phillips and where he came from and his parenting style, That's how he was probably playing.
No,
it.
you know what? I completely agree with you. I would never disagree with that at all. And I've brought that conversation to him before. You know what I mean? Because it's always my grandmother this, you know, this and that, this and that. So I know that he was traumatized. You get it? So I know he was traumatized. But my issue is that at some point you have to have self-reflection. You have to have self-awareness. And you know what I mean? As you're getting older, like I'm a young man, and you know what I mean? And I've been able to unpick a lot of my traumas. I'm not healed, I'm not perfect, you know what I mean? I can still, you know what I mean? I'm not that guy, but ultimately I'm on a journey of self-reflection, I'm on a journey of progression, or been able to say, this is how it is, this is how it should be. You know what I mean? Whereas with the older generation especially, they're stuck in their ways where they're not trying to be self-reflective, they're not trying to be self-aware, they're not trying to get with the time, so to speak. And that's what kind of I was addressing with him as well, is that I understood, I've heard what you said before when I'm speaking to Uncle Philip, and saying that I understand that, you know, things with his grandmother, he never grew up with his parents. There's a lot of things that went on when he was growing up, which completely understandable. But you know what I mean? But if you're telling people that, you know, you're so wise and you're a counselor and you've raised all these people, then you hold yourself accountable to saying you shouldn't be dealing with people a type of way. You know what I mean? And so if I'm a young child growing up in his care, and you know what I mean, and a lot of the communication is negative, you know what I mean? Even to this day now, when it comes to trying new things and putting myself out there, there's a lot of my mindset is negative because it's his voice in my head. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's go on, Mark.
Let me cut you there a second. Let me ask you a question, George. I'm listening intently to what you're saying in this little space of time.
No disrespect, Uncle Philip.
Nah, he would never take it like that.
Because I've spoken to him about it face to face. You know, that's why I can speak about these things, because I've spoken to him about it face to face.
The first thing I'm going to say, and you've already said it, is respect due, because you're not talking nothing that you've not said already. So you're not waiting for this platform to say, well, Uncle Philip, it was good, but you could have. You've done that already. I work with young people on a daily basis. And like Uncle Philip, I try to be a wise counsel and try and tell them things that they can't see, things that they're going to, roads and journeys that they're going to buck up on, but they can't see it now because they're just living from some of these youths hour to hour, much less day to day. The question I want to ask you is, if when Uncle Philip is putting these things on you and trying to raise you a certain way, if you had, like, say, a hug when he's telling you these things, would that have...
You know, that would have made all the difference.
Because I find that when I talk,
everything.
I find that with young people, when I talk to them, when I finish, if I'm telling them something positive, it doesn't matter. But if I'm telling them something that they don't want to hear, but they need to hear, I finish it. Come here, man. Give me some love. Give me a hug. Hug them to make them know it's coming from a good place.
And how you say it as well. We've spoken about it before as well. It's not about what you say.
It is tones, it's delivery, all of that. I think it's
things to be underpinned with something that's good as well. You know what I mean? If 90% of the time the communication is negative, and you can't even get a wow, you're doing that well, or that's good. You know what I mean? It's not balanced.
Let me give you a little example before you continue. We all grow up in different generations, and I might bring a friend round to my mum's house, to parents' house, both of them was there. And my mum, she would be the one to tell me, don't bring that boy back on my yard.
Sorry.
Why? My spirit not take to it. And that's it. You're not going to get any more explanation than that. Don't bring. And as the generations go on, we understand this, that I understood that when my mom told me that, I wanted more explanation and I didn't get it. So when I tell my children that, I give them the explanation as to why, not just spirit, as to why my spirit doesn't. Do you understand? And I think as we go on, because as the generations go on, we're living in this fast lane lifestyle. You tell a youth to do something that's going to take them 2 minutes. Oh, it's long. They don't want to do it. So you have to put in that work as adults to bend the branch, sort of, to say, this is why I want you to do it. Not just do it because it's right, which in his term is correct. What he's saying is right. Do it because I'm right. But the explanation behind it and a little hug makes you doing it, you understand? Sweetens the labor.
Yeah, you're completely right. And similarly to Scotty, I work in a therapeutic setting as well. I work with looked after children in a residential setting.
Okay.
And obviously we have to use sort of psychological frameworks like PACE to be able to sort of manage the challenging behaviors. And it's sort of in dealing with, like, I got a key child, Kamali, who's
What's PACE?
PACE stands for playfulness, acceptance, curiosity, and empathy. And that is a model of being able to engage the children in being able to do like key works, managing behavior, and just how to sort of, it's like a parenting style basically, but how to manage the kids within the home setting. And that's what we use.
So repeat it: playfulness,
acceptance, curiosity, and empathy. So for example, if a child is starting to become heightened or dysregulated, you might, instead of sort of using a more punitive approach, you might use playfulness to address their behavior and sort of try and mess around with them. Instead of like restraining them, you might sort of touch them, try and play fight, trying to diffuse the situation. Humor, you know what I mean? Acceptance is a huge thing as well, just accepting the child for who they are, what they do. Curiosity is a fantastic key to getting in by probing, playfully, to be able to get a child to open up. And empathy is just something that we should all demonstrate anyway.
That's right. Empathy is something that a lot of people claim to have, but they don't.
The sympathy.
Sympathy. They feel sorry, but empathy is different from sympathy. Empathy is really trying to make sense of what someone is feeling. So there's so much that you've kind of shared. And again, Marlo, some of the guests that we have, I just feel for us to give them justice, we need to give them time, because there's so much richness. You're talking about who you are now, working with looked after children. Some of the themes that we're going to cover today is about systemic racism, how that impacts us as a whole. We're talking about generational trauma. So when I think about Dad, Mr. Phillips, his drive was to protect you guys because he knew that racism was alive and well and kicking. And that empathy, when you're there trying to protect your family, sometimes as a man, you think protecting is all about masculinity and not care. So you spoke about playfulness with the young people. So like I worked in a hospital, and when young people used to come in that were injured, a lot of the staff would just stand in their cubicles and talk to them. We're going to put the drip in. We're going to give you 5 ounces of saline. We're going to stitch up the wound. We're going to do all of this stuff. One of the things that I said to my team is we must practice touch. Because when you touch a human being, it lowers their threat level. And it releases this good feeling. It's called oxytocin. So like a touch releases, and it's a feel-good chemical where you just feel safe. And then that word that you use around helping people, curiosity, I'm thinking about men's mental well-being on the whole. We need to be more curious around men's mental well-being. You know, that playfulness that you spoke about. Instead of being combative with people, we need to be curious. I'm not sure what you was feeling. I felt like this. Is that what you felt? So you're almost giving that person permission in a curious way to say, no, you got that wrong. So there's so much richness in your story. We haven't even talked about the care journey and the trauma of what you call those formative years. And so
we
much
ain't talked
knowledge.
about your relationships yet. We need to give you some time around that. I'm conscious it's 10 past 8.
So like, that's
He's
what
got
I'm
20
saying.
minutes.
We've got so much for him to give.
So let him jump in.
He's going to jump in, but I need to just find out a little bit more about where he's going to jump in, because I don't want to go to certain places where we don't give you enough time to really explore it. So one of the things you talked about was your relationship with Mr. Phillips. One of the things you spoke about was what you're doing now. You spoke about your relationship with your mum. I don't want to go into that now because that's a deeper level of work. You spoke about your healing. And this is something else that the audience need to hear from this young man. Healing is not you go to therapy, you do 6 sessions, and then the work's done.
No. Say it again.
Healing is not you come to therapy and you have 6 sessions and the work is done. It's a continuous, lifelong process. So you're a young man and you're on this journey, and like what I respect, and I've never met you before, and thank you, Marlo, for bringing him. is that you're a powerful young man because you're spoken about transformation as a man, as a young man, going through all of this trauma, but still having the resilience and the strength to give something back. And something that you spoke about, Milo, earlier, and Mark, and the young man said it last week, the one that was to mine. The most important and valuable thing that we can give is what?
Time.
Time.
Always.
Yeah.
So tell me about, you spoke a little bit about your life now. So you're working with young people in the care system. So you're a real lived by experience practitioner. Milo talked about a little bit about relationships, and I don't want to know. I don't know if it's somewhere where you want to go, but we're talking about relationships today in terms of how sometimes relationships can hinder men's mental well-being. So if you feel comfortable, just dance a little bit about your relationship history. You have children?
No.
Make sure you don't have none. Until you might be right. Sure.
First of all, I'll just say God is good, you know what I mean? I feel he's the only reason why I'm not a madman right now. Because like you said, there's a lot of resilience that didn't come directly from me. I can't take all the credit, you know what I mean? Before we go into the relationship stuff, because like you said, we ain't got a lot of time, and you know what I mean? I don't know whether I want to start slewing.
Yeah. You might not want to slew them might be feelings.
We just broke up like 6 weeks ago. It's still a bit fresh, and I don't want to start getting triggered.
Don't get triggered by your relationship.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that should tell you all you need to know.
Yeah. So that's powerful.
But in terms of the work and stuff, though, I believe that is just part of my purpose. You know what I mean? Me and my mum, my birth mum, she came over for dinner last year, and we sat down at the table and we had a conversation. And I told her that I forgive her. And I said that, you know, Mum, there is absolutely no animosity there. Unfortunately, me and my mum will never have a relationship like that. I love her to bits because she's my mum. She gave me life, but unfortunately, there's just no bond there. And you know, I don't know if I'll ever be able to really mentally, emotionally, psychologically overcome any of that to really form a meaningful sort of relationship there. But I told her that, you know, I forgive her. There's no animosity there. She was able to share some of her story as well. And she had a very hard life as well. You know what I mean? She was an orphan from the age of 12. She was sexually abused by her dad at a young age, and then fell into a dangerous cycle further down the line, having me and then having my brother. So she just mentally was not in a good place. She did not have the capacity to be a mum to me and my little brother. And I learned from my I had a youth worker growing up called Perry, and she always used to tell me that your parents are somebody before they're your parents. You know what I mean? They're a sister to someone, they're a daughter to someone, a cousin. And from a young age, that always helped me understand and always helped me acknowledge that, you know, these people are broken people, but it's not me. You know what I mean? I've known you through however long I've been alive, but you've been alive for X amount of years. You see what I'm saying?
That's right.
And so I told her about, and what helped as well was about the story of Joseph, about how his brother sold him into slavery. And then he went to work for Pharaoh, became like Prime Minister of Egypt, all for the famine, so that he could provide his family with rations at the time. And that's what I kind of said to her, because to be honest, my mom actually grew me up in the church. Before I even went to care, I used to go to church, and I was waving the banner when I was like 4 years old and that. And what I said to her is that, you know, I've been through this journey because now, you know, the amount of empathy I can provide, my therapeutic work, counseling, my coaching, the things that I'm doing at the moment, I had to go through this life to be purified by fire, to be molded by fire, you know what I mean, by the Lord, to be the person that I need to be to fulfill my purpose that the Lord has in my life.
Can I just add to that, though? I think what I've picked from what you said there as well is, you know, the key thing between Joseph and yourself is forgiveness. That is part of your healing journey as well. And a lot of people do have issues when it comes to forgiveness. You can't heal. I feel that you cannot heal, or you're not successful in healing journey if you don't learn how to forgive. You know, so that in itself is a very powerful tool. And it's not even that, you know, from your background and what I'm hearing in your story, you know, you've now become a destiny helper to others as a result of your painful journey.
Well, 100%.
You know?
I see myself, like the Apostle Paul. I see myself as a living sacrifice. You know what I mean? A life of servanthood, because I can see to do it. You know what I mean? All my work has been around either looked after children, or I've been in education, championing vulnerable children in education as well. Since the age of 11, I was 11 years old, I started going to Children Aid Care Council. And they had 16, 17-year-olds.
Yeah, for Bernardo's, isn't it?
With Bernardo's, yeah.
Good.
Had 16, 17-year-olds that just weren't taking it seriously. They didn't see what potential was there to make an impact. And when I was working with a lady called Bridget, she passed away, RIP, a lovely lady, I said to her, I'm going to become chair of this council. And at 16, Enfield Council took it over. We rebranded it, renamed ourselves Kratos, which is like the Greek word for power. And we ended up going on to do great work, ring fencing opportunities for care leavers, just improving the services, making Enfield Council sort of accountable to rights and entitlements of our young people. And I won 2 Princess Diana Awards for that.
Say it again, bro. Say it again, man. Say it again, man.
2 Princess Diana Awards, for champion for the rights of children.
Come on. We need a pot cover.
You know what is really
Come on.
I'm listening to your story, and again, Marlo, we can testify this. We've worked with so many young men, and a lot of them have gone through trauma, but they haven't realized it's a baptism of fire. And that trauma is almost to mold you to find your purpose. I love how you spoke about your relationship with the Father, and how that's been something that's resonated. And I'm not going to reveal your age, but you're not in your 30s, below 30. And for a young man below 30, after the show, I'm probably going to give you a hug, because you're powerful. Because there's so much young men out there, 27, 29, 30, still living like they're 15. And what you've achieved is just really, really awesome and inspiring, because you're going to do great things. And I'm not saying that. I'm telling you, you're going to do great things, because men's mental well-being, if a man don't know his purpose, my granddad used to say this to me, if you don't know where you're going, you will go anywhere. So if I don't know my purpose, why am I here? Come, let's do the armed robbery, Scotty. 5-year sentence. Come out. Let's do work, Scotty. A next sentence. Because I don't know my purpose. But as a young man, you've taken your baptism and you found your purpose. And you are going to, you spoke about this lady, Bridget, that was on the council. And your name is going to be in so many young people's testimonies. It was this young man named George. That was phenomenal. And I think all of us here, Mark, Milo, so we can tell you about people that have inspired us.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mark.
I just want to chip in real quickly. And you talk about Uncle Philip and what he told you and everything else, and some of it you started to challenge and question. But think about it. Listen to the words that you said. You said, now I feel like an apostle. I'm here a servant to do works. That thought process came from Uncle Philip, in the sense of when, as you described him, as the wise man, the counsel, you understand, that person that knew what was right for you and putting it down on you. His delivery may not have been totally palatable to you, but in your subconscious, you kept it there. Because I'm listening to what you're saying. And you're saying now how you feel like, you understand, the apostle, the servant to do that work. Your mum as well, even though you had limited, access to her in that church thing, you think about it, it's all a design. You were meant to go to Uncle Philip.
Yeah, I definitely believe that, but similarly, I feel like I was always destined to be this person. Like I said, I was never a bad youth. My mum just didn't have the capacity to manage me and my little brother. Not because we were bad, but she just had her
own issues.
She had her own trauma.
So how did you feel about that? Because that's part of the first first part of the show is, do women contribute to help your mental health or hinder your mental health? And you started off with your mother. Do you think that was a help or a hindrance, and why?
I mean, the whole thing with my mum definitely a hindrance. Just because of sort of the negative consequences that arise from that, like the attachment issues. You know what I mean? Struggling to form relationships, like deep-rooted, intimate relationships with people, and being closed off in that sense.
What do you mean? So you found it hard to build relationships with what, women or with anybody?
Yeah, primarily with women. Yeah. So you know, it's like cliche, the commitment issues and that stuff. But just bonding with someone in a genuine sense and genuinely being able to trust someone is something I find very difficult, and takes me a lot. I
think one of the things that we need to kind of just throw out there is like attachment theory. So it's by a man, his name Bowlby, talks about different attachment styles.
I'm definitely avoidant.
You're avoidant.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me hear from you what that attachment. What do you mean by that?
So just like more closed off, more distant, and yeah, I think that's how I describe it.
Yeah.
Sort of, I wouldn't necessarily get into things. I'd rather just pacify things. I'll deal like, you know what I mean? If things are uncomfortable, I'll just deal with it to avoid having to have that sort of negative, confrontation. And you end up being a bit of a people pleaser to people as well, because you're always avoiding that confrontation.
You're avoiding conflicts.
Just for the sake, and then you're sort of diminishing your needs for the sake of that person.
That's right.
Yeah. And I think it's important that, like, when you're thinking about men's mental well-being, again, a lot of the relationships that men have, if they don't know their attachment style, it's going to contribute to poor mental well-being. Because if you've got an insecure attachment and you're in a relationship, that relationship is going to have flaws, because you're never going to trust that person because of your own upbringing. I didn't feel safe in any intimate relationship. You're now insecure of what it is. So that can have an impact on your mental well-being. If you're talking about avoidance style attachment, you avoid closeness because it feels threatening.
Yeah,
it feels
100%.
scary.
And I'll just cut in there, especially early on in like sort of my previous relationships, we've gone through periods where, especially at the start, where they want that affection, they want the kissing, the hugging, and that's like on the sofa and that, and that's something that, you know, is uncomfortable for me. I'm more, you know what I mean? I want to just sit with me and watch the TV, and you can sit there and watch the TV. Or, like when you're in the kitchen, they just want you to come and just hug them or whatever if they're cooking. That was always something that I wasn't really down with. I was always just keep myself to myself sort of thing. And, you know, that came with a lot of backlash. And so
to talk about the backlash, please.
Well, women need affection, don't they? They need affection. They need that physical touch. That's a love language that a lot of people, men and women, have as well. And so it's an important part of forming relationships and forming those bonds with your romantic partner and stuff like that. And how I described it was like, it's like being in a mental prison, because you yourself also want that. You know what I mean? Even though you're avoiding attachment, even though you might be more reserved or closed off, secretly, you do want that physical interaction. You do want that affection because it's important for you. But it's like in your mind you want it, but it's like, how do you
can't do it because like here,
and you're
just like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
You feel like all type of different feelings. You feel weird. You feel a little bit unsure. You're feeling, are they going to push me away? So these are all the things that attachment has to do with relationship.
To do that, and it's a barrier. And unfortunately, when I tried to explain that to my ex, she wasn't really trying to help me overcome my battle. She just said, no, I need affection. I need this. It wasn't a thing where she was like, oh, I really understand where you're coming from. How can I help do that sort of thing?
Yeah.
And when it comes to women and men's mental health, what you got to understand is Adam in the garden walked with God. He had God. And God himself said, it's not good. So Adam had God, and God said it's not good, and had to create woman for Adam.
So what you saying? That
So
man is not meant to be alone?
Man's not meant to be alone. This is what God said himself.
Gelding.
So
man on a gelding.
No.
So tell me something. Are you in a relationship at the moment?
No, I'm single, newly single now. That's why.
You hear that, London? You hear that, London?
I'm not looking, but the next woman has to be a friend. I've been saying it.
What you say?
The next woman has to be a friend.
Yeah.
A friend.
Yeah.
Why is that important? Listen,
Just
you got
by
10
keeping it
minutes to
platonic.
tell me why that's important.
Why is it important?
5, okay. 5.
Because I think it's important to have a solid foundation where you guys know each other inside and out, where you guys kind of know how to work with each other, you know, sort of each other's quirks, you know, the background and stuff like that. And with that firm foundation, when the romantic stuff comes, you've got a good base.
You can't build a house on quicksand.
Yeah.
So if you have a relationship based on mutual understanding and compassion, then it's gonna have a strong foundation. Something that someone said to me, this generation now, the internet generation, Instagram and so forth. Me a restaurant named Akasan, and with some of that one them that you
Sexy
got to,
fishes.
Sexy fishes.
Sexy fish.
Where man feel that if they take a woman or a prospective date to those places, it's an impressing thing. You want to get to know a woman or you want to get to know a man? Go Starbucks and have coffee.
Yeah.
So all you can have is the 2 cups of coffee. You can't hide behind your Gucci belt. You can't hide behind the plate and the silver and the gold. You have to have. But now your generation thinks that's cheap, bruv. He's cheap. He's taking me Starbucks, and they're gonna. But that's how you're gonna find a real one. But like, I'm aware of the time.
Hold on, Scotty, because you're beautiful at breaking it down, reflecting, and showing what the person just said. But I wanna give George 5 minutes without interruption regarding where you are now, because you said you went from sitting on the sofa, she's sitting there, and now you're rosemantic. How did you get from there to being rosemantic?
I'm far from rosemantic. I tried, but I think it's a lot of meditation. It's a lot of meditation. I think, back in 2020, so 2019 was a bit of a rough year for me, and that was kind of the same period of time I was getting with my ex as well, where I was like a bit more overweight.
Getting back with her?
No, this is when I was first getting with her. It was back in like 2019 sort of thing. And I was not in a good place myself, you know what I mean? And it just happened that we just ended up happening, you know what I mean? There was no breaks. We kind of started talking, developed very quickly, and next thing you know, like we're just together, you know what I mean? Without that foundation that I was talking about, having that friendship. So it was a lot of learning for me, you know what I mean? I'd never had positive examples of what relationships should look like, you know what I mean? I never really, only until kind of recently where I see another black man really chat to his woman, nice. That was like the first time in a long time, and that was only the other day. So going into this relationship, I don't have the experience. I don't have the sort of, I can't imagine what it looks like because I haven't seen it.
You haven't got any examples.
You see what I'm saying? And so navigating this while trying to navigate my own journey, just moving out, you know what I mean? I've been living with the Morrises for like 15, 16 years. Then moving out was a big shock. Unfortunately, with the way things ended, there wasn't really that line of communication either. So I was alone, which made me more susceptible to kind of falling within this relationship and whatnot. But the answer to everything is God. You know what I mean? In 2020, I really saw him in real life. Like, he revealed himself in a real sense. I've always believed in him since the age of 11.
How did that happen?
Boy, through meditation. You know, when I was 2019, I used to go to the park and I was talking to myself. I'd be in my yard and I'm talking to myself like, George, what the hell's going on? Why do you feel this way? Like, thinking of solutions, you know what I mean? I started going to the gym. I was eating well. In 2020, I was like super, super lean. And I just looked up one day and I'm like, whoa, it's him. And you know what I mean? He just showed me the whole time. I thought I was talking to myself. I was talking to him, you know, the kingdom of heaven is within you, you know what I mean? And just through me exploring that, Christ was able to reveal himself to me and really change my heart posture, you know what I mean? Where is more from a love-focused perspective of, I need to do these things as a man because it's the right thing to do, you know what I mean? Showing your woman affection, no matter what the relationship dynamics was like, I still had to do things as a man because I had to be like Christ. You know what I mean? You have to love your wife like Christ loves the church, you know what I mean? And those sort of things really help really change my mindset towards relationships and my role as a man and how I'm meant to deal with a woman and treat a woman and stuff like that.
One word for you before you finish. Vulnerability. How vulnerable did you feel when you said you had to go and make that journey and you felt alone?
At the time, I didn't feel vulnerable because I didn't know I was vulnerable. You know what I mean? I've always been quite a mentally resilient person. Maybe that's, you know what I mean, male pride, but I'd always felt like because I've been working with looked after children since I was 11, obviously, I'm not really taking in the fact that this whole thing has affected me personally. It's just
another stage of your life.
I'm just always dealing with other people, never really dealing with myself and how I feel, what I think. And it's just always masking and always pacifying for the sake of my environment and keeping my environment sweet. So I never even knew I was vulnerable until I realized, whoa, I am quite vulnerable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I am susceptible to certain relationships because of the relationship I shared with like my mom, for example, relationship breakdown, you know what I mean, and things like that. And to be honest, I stayed in my relationship longer than I should have. And that was out of fear of seeing another thing break down.
Yeah, there's so much that you've spoken about. I'm aware that we're gonna go for an interval.
Yeah, I'll do it.
No, but there's like, as I said, I think when we do the next season, we'll definitely come back and invite you so that we can dance a little bit more around, because I think your story is really interesting. But just to kind of give it a little snippet of what George spoke about, he spoke about his time being in care and moving into your family, Marlo, and his relationship with your dad, Mr. Philip, and how Mr. Philip had his own trauma and how he parented you was with love, but it wasn't the type of love that you need. And again, for parents out there, know your children, because different children respond in different ways. And you spoke about your transformation, where you are now, and your calling and your faith, your relationship with the Father, how it's personal to you and how it shaped you. And you gave us a little snippet about some of the remarkable things that you did. You used this kind of synopsis around PACE, which is playfulness,
acceptance.
Huh? come. PACE is what? Playfulness,
acceptance.
Yeah.
Curiosity.
And I want to see if everyone listens. So people them outside, remember, George has blessed you today with that in all aspects of your life. Use PACE. Be playful. Have acceptance. Be curious. And have empathy. And you've given us so many gems today that like I want to store each one in my pocket and like really just look at it and scrub it and shine it up. All that richness about attachment theory. The powerfulness about forgiveness. Forgiveness starts. Forgive yourself first. And when you can forgive yourself, you can forgive others around you. So I just wanted to say, George, like, I feel like I want to stay here and dance with you even more. But
you like dancing with George, but I think we need
then we're going to have a break. We're going to have a break. We're going to have a 5-minute break. We're going to play the loop of the video.
Yeah.
While we're going to have a water break, and then after the break, we're going to introduce this lovely lady, Susie. And Susie's going to tell us about what she does, and we're going to do some dancing between us again. So thank you. Let's have a break.
Casual dismissal of men's mental health is a prevalent issue in today's society. It's a silent epidemic, often masked by the age-old adage of man up or be strong. But strength isn't about suffering in silence. It's about acknowledging feelings, seeking help, and breaking free from the chains of stigma. Bravado and resilience are often conflated, yet they are not the same. Admitting to struggles doesn't make one weak, it makes one human. It's time we recognize that mental health doesn't discriminate on the basis of gender. From anxiety to depression, PTSD to bipolar disorder, men grapple with a myriad of mental health issues. The first step towards change is awareness. So let's shine a spotlight on men's mental health because it matters just as much. Remember, it's okay not to be okay. Reach out, seek help, and let's foster a world where mental health is a conversation, not a taboo.
Legacy Foundation and A Few Good Men, in partnership with Local Motion and NYCC, present Secrets to Success, the men's mental health and wealth creation podcast. Yes, Wellbeing Wednesdays are back by popular demand from 7:30 to 9:30 GMT, starting on the 21st of February and every Wednesday after that till the end of March. As always, we'll be keeping it real, confronting the tough topics for a better tomorrow. Suicide, unemployment, homelessness, fatherless families, abortion, writing wills, serious youth crime and violence, divorce, breakups, breakdowns, trauma, grief, healthy relationships, parenting, education, healthcare, self-care, wealth care. Join us for Wellbeing Wednesdays. Offload, get interactive, and enjoy giveaways. Listen to the Men's Mental Health and Wealth Creation podcast. We need the best of us, inspiring the rest of us. Sisters, we need to be part of this too. Big shout out to Local Motion, supporting mental health and well-being services for people living in Enfield.
Casual dismissal of men's mental health is a prevalent issue in today's society. It's a silent epidemic, often masked by the age-old adage of man up or be strong. But strength isn't about suffering in silence. It's about acknowledging feelings, seeking help, and breaking free from the chains of stigma. Bravado and resilience are often conflated, yet they are not the same. Admitting to struggles doesn't make one weak, it makes one human. It's time we recognize that mental health doesn't discriminate on the basis of gender. From anxiety to depression, PTSD to bipolar disorder, men grapple with a myriad of mental health issues. The first step towards change is awareness. So let's shine a spotlight on men's mental health because it matters just as much. Remember, it's okay not to be okay. Reach out, seek help, and let's foster a world where mental health is a conversation, not a taboo.
Legacy Foundation and A Few Good Men, in partnership with Local Motion and NYCC, present Secrets to Success, the Men's Mental Health and Wealth Creation podcast. Yes, Wellbeing Wednesdays are back by popular demand from 7:30 to 9:30 GMT, starting on the 21st of February and every Wednesday after that till the end of March. As always, we'll be keeping it real, confronting the tough topics for a better tomorrow. Suicide, unemployment, homelessness, fatherless families, abortion, writing wills, serious youth crime and violence, divorce, breakups, breakdowns, trauma, grief, healthy relationships, parenting, education, healthcare, self-care, wealth care. Join us for Wellbeing Wednesdays. Offload, get interactive, and enjoy giveaways. Listen to the Men's Mental Health and Wealth Creation podcast. We need the best of us, inspiring the rest of us. Sisters, we need to be part of this too. Big shout out to Local Motion, supporting mental health and well-being services for people living in Enfield.
Casual dismissal of men's mental health is a prevalent issue in today's society. It's a silent epidemic, often masked by the age-old adage of man up or be strong. But strength isn't about suffering in silence. It's about acknowledging feelings, seeking help, and breaking free from the chains of stigma. Bravado and resilience are often conflated, yet they are not the same. Admitting to struggles doesn't make one weak, it makes one human. It's time we recognize that mental health doesn't discriminate on the basis of gender. From anxiety to depression, PTSD to bipolar disorder, men grapple with a myriad of mental health issues. The first step towards change is awareness. So let's shine a spotlight on men's mental health because it matters just as much. Remember, it's okay not to be okay. Reach out, seek help, and let's foster a world where mental health is a conversation, not a taboo.
Legacy Foundation and A Few Good Men, in partnership with Local Motion and NYCC, present Secrets to Success, the men's mental health and wealth creation podcast. Yes, Wellbeing Wednesdays are back by popular demand from 7:30 to 9:30 GMT, starting on the 21st of February and every Wednesday after that till the end of March. As always, we'll be keeping it real, confronting the tough topics for a better tomorrow. Suicide, unemployment, homelessness, fatherless families, abortion, writing wills, serious youth crime and violence, divorce, breakups, breakdowns, trauma, grief, healthy relationships, parenting, education, healthcare, self-care, wealth care. Join us for Wellbeing Wednesdays. Offload, get interactive, and enjoy giveaways. Listen to the Men's Mental Health and Wealth Creation podcast. We need the best of us, inspiring the rest of us. Sisters, we need to be part of this too. Big shout out to Local Motion, supporting mental health and well-being services for people living in Enfield.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Wow, what a first part. Yeah, it's I have to watch it back. There was so much there. Thank you, George. A lot of stuff I didn't even know. Thank you so much for your contribution. Because of time, we're going to run in to the second part and introduce our second guest. Her name is Susie Castillo. Yeah, she's a community advocate, IAG life coach, mental health first aider, and trainee counselor. She's currently working with the Legacy Foundation to support our mental health employability needs. That's not in education and training and family support services. She has 25 years of working with and advocating for disadvantaged people across all ages who face an array of societal, mental, physical health issues and barriers, and assists to find solutions for them. Her key tools for success when working with her clients are information, empowerment, participation, engagement, and solution. She also believes we should normalize therapy within our community and promotes and encourages men that it's okay to ask for help. Thank you and welcome, Susie,
Thank you.
Secrets to Success and Men's Welfare Creation.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. So we're just going to let you dive right in who you are, what you do, why you do it, who, what, why, when. And thank you for joining us. Who are you?
Hi. Well, you just said it all there, which is a bit of a mouthful. But yeah, I'm an advocate. I like advocating for men because I just think that women, not to say that there's, women shouldn't have a voice, but as a result of that, men's voices have been slowly,
Diminished.
Diminished is the word. I'm going to read some things and some findings that I've done. I recently done some research on Black men's mental health. There's just a questionnaire looking at certain issues that Black men face today. I will ask the guys on the coach to read out some examples from the research that I've done or from the questionnaires. And I'm just going to go into Black mental health issues that affect us not as a community, but also a snippet on in regards to how mental health issues affect the borough of Enfield and also Black men in general. Okay. So the mistake that is often made is the assumption that people from Black or BME backgrounds share the same struggles with a cultural difference. The fact is that there is an array of difference within BME communities, just as there are between the majority of the white population and other diverse cultures living in England. The common factor BME communities in England share is the experience of being treated different and therefore experiencing discrimination, which places additional pressures on people. to add institutional racism, which is in schools and in the workplace, and the inequality of care within the mental health care system are identified as major problems. And this means that targeted mental health services for people affected by these factors are few and far between. And that reference was taken from a mental health first aider manual that I used years ago when I was studying to become a mental health first aider. And that was back in 2016. So it's showing that those issues are still not really changed. You know, coming up to 2024 or in 2024.
Still relevant.
100%. I've also got some statistics which are taken from the Mental Health and Wellbeing in England, an adult psychiatric survey in England. And this was taken from the Mind Mental Health charity website. And it says that people from Black communities are more likely than average to experience a common mental health problem in any given week. So the percentage of experiencing a common mental health problem in the last week by ethnicity would be white other, 14%, white British, 17%, Asian and Asian British, 18%, mixed and other, 20%, and Black British is a whopping 23%. And then, you know, moving on from there, that's just us as a community. But when we're dealing with Black men and mental health issues, you find that Black men more likely to experience symptoms of psychosis other than any other ethnic group. And that's like 3.2% in comparison to 0.3% of white men and 1.3% of Asian men.
That's a...
Yeah. It's a big number.
Big number.
And there is no significant variation by ethnic group or among women.
Okay.
So again, going back to the research that I did recently, I did a public research study in relation to men's mental health. The study is ongoing, okay? And here are some of the observations from the current research. So the common denominator for 50% of Black, Caribbean and African men aged 18 to 40 stated that Black men either internalize and or do not talk about their mental health issues. 30% of British white males aged 18 to 40 felt the same. And added that men generally do not have good coping strategies, i.e. they use alcohol or drugs. You know, one of the men who filled in the questionnaire, you know, we were talking about the question and he said, yeah, you know, the man then resort to weed, you know, as a coping mechanism, or going out and raving and drinking, you know, that's another coping strategy, you know. And so again, the Black counterparts agreed with that. 20% of other ethnic groups aged 18 to 40, for example, men, because was it Kazakhstan? I could never pronounce it properly. Kazakhstan. Sorry, Kazakhstan people. They believe that men do not have a voice, and the other male ethnic backgrounds also shared the same views on this. That you know, men don't have a voice, and that they further stress that finding someone to help them, such as another man from maybe from a religious background, for example, may help them to find ways to cope with anxiety and stress. Yeah. All of the above ethnic groups suggested that they would benefit from family support, life coaching and counselling, which is tailored specifically or especially for men, such as walking seminars, workshops, and just for them to have their own safe space to talk as men, and for them to feel, you know, to be vulnerable, because not all men are comfortable talking to women counsellors. I know nowadays you have different counselling services where you can kind of select, you know, the type of therapist you want to talk to. But then, you know, if you're going into a walk-in service like mine, the issue is that they get who's available. They might not get, you know, a person that's tailored to their needs or their desires of who they, you know, feel comfortable talking to. So, yeah, you know, I like to, I think it's about promoting and discussing the fact that it's okay not to be okay. You know, it's okay to be vulnerable. You know, and it's all okay to talk about issues as men. You know, that's the healthy way to move forward. Can I move on to one of you guys if you want to read out something from one of the questionnaires there, Mark?
What I'd like to say, Susie, is I think what you're doing is endorsing and validate what this whole show is about. It's about getting men to open up, express, touch on subjects that were taboo, that were swept under the carpet. So, you know, thank you for coming on. And as a woman doing this survey, I think it takes on more prominence in the fact that it's a woman doing it who identifies that some men need that voice or are lacking that voice.
Mm-hmm.
Looking over at your questionnaire, the question that jumps out at me is, do you feel Black men are capable at expressing their thoughts, feelings, and emotions easily? And if not, why not? Jump straight at me, because it's all what this show is about. It's about giving Black men that encouragement, you know, to lose a little bit of that vulnerability to express, because we all as Black men, we all have that same one approach, which is, you know, not on a test. We do what we do. We don't hurt. We don't cry. We don't do none of that emotional in touch side. And, you know, that's all down to emotional intelligence. A man that can cry in front of people is not a man that's showing weakness. He's showing vulnerability at that time, but it's, I wouldn't say controlled, because that sounds robotic, but they're okay with shedding tears, with expressing how they feel without feeling they've lost any of their masculinity.
Exactly, that's a common thing. Yeah, yeah.
So I would say that.
Yeah, I agree as well, and I think the question about whether Black men would benefit from sort of family support or life coaching or counselling, I think was quite interesting for me as well. Kind of ties into the point that you made as well. I think that my personal opinion, and sort of outside of the residential stuff, I also do counselling as well, so counselling, coaching, and mentoring for like my brand called George Hears You, and that's all about helping people become free from sort of the mental captivity of trauma and sort of and life adversity and things like that. And the only reason why I want to do that is to be able to facilitate people being able to come to their own sort of outcomes and being able to come up with their own solutions, because I believe that everyone already knows.
That's right.
But it's through the dialogical process of being able to talk and for someone to listen, you're able to then get rid of some of the sort of crap that's on your mind to really get into, oh, actually, if I did this differently, that could change. You know what I mean? And I think that it's extremely important. Everyone needs to have that safe space to be able to have that dialogue.
I think 100%. The word fear comes in, because a lot of us are fearful of showing signs of vulnerability and thinking, this person I'm expressing this to, where they're going to take it to. And it's having that, so it's overcoming the fear and having the trust in who you're talking to, you know.
And also to add to that as well, Mark, it's quite common anyway in Black and Asian families that we're taught to just, especially as men, you know, or most Black people in mental health, I say across the board, men and male and female, that just get on with it. You know, that came up quite a bit in the questionnaires as well. Oh, you're not suffering from mental health problem. Oh, that's for other people. You know, put up and shut up. Just get on with it.
Especially the religious families as well. That just say, you know, it's the enemy, it's the enemy, it's the enemy. But you're never really actually addressing the enemy. You need to talk about it. You need to talk about it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the enemy will always get you.
Yeah.
It's interesting because as a therapist, one of the things that made me go into therapy was when I was working with young people. They used to tell me their trauma. And before I studied, I didn't understand why. And then when you train to be a counselor, you got to do your own counseling. So when you spoke earlier, you talked about self-development is a lifelong process. So I still have to access counseling, even though I'm a therapist myself, and I have to access clinical supervision to talk about my cases. But one of the things that I realized when you spoke about PACE, it's about empathy. And we need to be compassionate to ourselves. First of all, we're promoting mental well-being. We're speaking in a compassionate, humanistic way. We're using vulnerable words. So when I trained, I think it was 150 hours in a domestic violence service, but it was with men, the perpetrators. And most of them, I'd say 9 out of 10 of those men, their violence was related to their childhood. Yes. So like what you said. But one of the things that they spoke highly about is emotional intelligence. And that's something that I speak about with you guys. Emotional intelligence is making sense of people's emotions or being curious. And one of the things that you need to have emotional intelligence is to be curious about your own mind. So that's being able to say, I don't feel good today. Or I don't feel, there's something bothering, I don't know what it is. And normally when we get these feelings, it triggers somewhere in our body. Some is in our stomach, some is in our hands, some is in our eyes, all over the place. And it's about having that compassion, like you said, George, to say, I'm feeling something and I don't know what it is. So the research that you're carrying out, one of the things that I looked at is the same question about life coaching and counseling. So here you have a young man who's a counselor. He looks like you. He sounds like you. He can't show me a manner. Here you have me. I'm a therapist. And like people see me out and like they question, is this really man? Like this is just how I look when I put on my therapeutic hat. It's a different guys altogether. There is a lot of black counsellors out there. And we are encouraging men and women, because the question that you asked in the beginning, Marlo, does relationships with women impact men's mental well-being? 100%. It can be in a positive way or it can be in a negative way. And I think the research that Susie's carried out has highlighted so many different questions about identity. I'm reading about how they're valued as black men in society. All of these nuances impact who you are as men, how you see yourself in the world, how you conduct yourself. One of the things we spoke about, me and Mike, we had a conversation on the phone and we was talking about institutional systemic racism. That's trauma.
Of course.
So a lot of black men don't even realize that every day that they're living, they're traumatized because they have to deal with racism. And racism is a trauma in itself that affects how you feel. So you spoke about receiving compliments and how you find it difficult. Enough black man just put on this bravado because I got to survive in this hostility. I can't show no weakness, bruv. So when they're in a relationship and a woman showing you compassion, for you to
accept it
and give it back, or it's a sign of all that. And that affects your mental health because now you're locking off a part of who you are.
Yeah,
but
you know what?
Can I just say that another factor to that is, what I said in the break is, it's learned behavior, isn't it? Yeah, that's one of the other factors. If you are kind of taught that, then you will, as you grow up as a young man, I've practiced that with my son. I look at him and his partner, and he's very loving. And I kind of pat myself on the back, look, you done that. You can take a little bit of that. And, obviously it's part of his nature. But I just think that, to look and see that, I know that I was a contributor towards him being a strong, young, healthy black male who is, responsible, accountable. If he's wrong, he doesn't, feel any way to say that he's wrong. He's looking after his children. And he's just doing the right thing. And I find that, it's, even so with your generation, a lot more young men are doing that due to the, absentee father, which I'm not going to get into that subject today, about absent fathers. But because everyone has their reasons, relationships that's another different subject. But, we're starting to see a reverse now of young men who are actually taking the reins after watching the older men get it wrong. And now they're
my generation.
My generation too, and even older. And now they're trying to correct that or do better.
Just reflecting on what you're saying, Susie, and this generation here, and I think you're right, because I think this generation, I think they're quite powerful. Like, I'm not biblical, I can't quote the Bible, but there is a scripture in the Bible that says, my people are fell because of lack of knowledge.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, my people suffer due to lack of knowledge. Yeah.
And what are we living in now?
Ignorance.
We're living in the information age. Information is everywhere. So what's the things that they used to say before? If you want to keep something hidden from me, what do you do with it?
Put it in a book.
Put it in a book. So information is there. So I think what your generation is doing is they're garnering information. And the way you spoke about your relationship with the father, and the way the young man last week, all these young men that are coming here talking about their relationship with the father, and that gives them a different, they're just different. So something that like Mark, you gave Marlo flowers earlier on. I'm going to give you flowers now, but not flowers per se.
But before you do that, can I come in though?
Yeah, no, I'm going to give you flowers. Because you see what I like about you, Marlo, is transformation and your spirituality. And I think that's why, as Mark said, people will be drawn to you. Forget about the old, it's the new. So I'm going to give you your flowers now and say what you're doing now and living and abiding by the word and the principalities of the spiritual warfare, and that you're choosing the right side to fight for now. Banana flowers, but I give you some flowers.
Thank you, my brother, and I appreciate that. All right, so Susie, yeah, you come in here with a lot of information. You
I
spent
have,
a lot
yeah,
of time, and I
yeah.
want you to go through it because it's important for the audience,
Yes.
and it's important for when we reflect back and start to summarize some of this journey. Yeah, and but what's, you know, this is beautiful. It's like a butterfly. You know what I'm saying? But before the butterfly could turn into a butterfly, it was once a caterpillar. Yeah. So what drove you from what's caused this passion for you to now start to be curious and start to do investigate some of this information? What's brought you to this position?
To be honest, it's like what I just mentioned to Scotty. It's just seeing this breakdown of our community. You know, we're coming from a generation where we saw the proper grandma who gave you that guidance. That grandma today is missing. All the grandmas are young. I'm a grandma. You know, I have 2 grandchildren. I mean, I'm brought up with that in the old school way. Thank God, so I'm able to pass down those values and those principles and those morals. But there's a lot I see in our community. A lot that there's not too much of it being handed down to the next generation. It's that guidance that's missing. And I'm seeing that, and I'm seeing the breakdown of the family home and children having children, as it says in the word, you know. And I remember my granny used to say, boy, you know, soon a generation of vipers is going to be born. And I'm seeing, you know, this increase of self-hate and knife crime. And it's what's driven my passion. As a woman, it's hurtful to watch this. It's really hurtful to watch it. And I just think that we need to relearn and reteach, you know. I think that, you know, this is my opinion on the Black community. It's time to take off the diapers, start crawling, and we need to start walking. Because as you said, Scotty, we're in the age of information. We've got more than enough tools for us to be strong, to become strong, to do better and be better. And that's just the bottom line. And as I said again, you know, the fact that your generation is starting to do that, you're running through that with the information, you're trying to make a change. We need to, you know, us older lot need to be learning for the younger ones as well, because, you know, again, taking or drawing for what you said earlier, Mark, when you said about, you know, we need to have more discussions. You know, ain't like in our day where, you know, when you mentioned earlier about your mum
Under the carpet.
saying, Miss Spirit, I to that one there, but do you know, I'm not being funny though, but my mum was right.
Yeah.
she was
right.
even though
They
she
just
never
were right.
explained. Yeah, she was right. But, you know, in the age of information, because young people are so bombarded with information, do I run here? Do I run? Where should I go? There's no guidance. There's, you know, there's no like, you know, no, forget that piece of information, you know, do it this way. You know, like what Granny used to do. You know, you could be able to go to an uncle, an elder, and go consult with your elders. So yeah, that's a part of my passion.
So what information have you got that you want to share?
So
with
moving forward, I've got some mental health statistics in Enfield, okay? And it says here that according to the Mental Health Prevalence and General Statistics document, which I found on governance.enfield.gov.uk, 1 in 5 Enfield residents aged 16 plus are estimated to have common mental health disorder.
1 in 5.
1 in 5, and that's 19.2%. And that's such as depression, panic disorders, anxiety, or OCD. And this is higher than a national estimate of 16.9%. That's in one borough.
That's a
right. And it's
people in
predicted.
Enfield,
Yeah, it's a lot. And it's also predicted that there will be 2,653 more 18 to 64-year-olds in Enfield with a common mental health disorder by 2035. So that's a 6.6% increase by 2035. So it's showing we have to put in the work now. Yeah, the work. You know, there's a need for us to support one another as a community and to help each other. Also cited, which I found on the North Central London Integrated Care System for Mental Health Services, which also covers Enfield. 18% of Black people in their caseload are Black or Black British. And they also said that Black or Black British people accounted for 27% of the mental health inpatient admissions in 2019 to 2020. Okay. moving on again. So that's just, mental health statistics. And, earlier on we touched base on racial disparities, right? So when we're dealing with mental health and racial disparities for the Black community in Enfield in 2024, so dealing with modern society.
Sorry, before you go ahead,
Yes.
you mentioned about this, is it that word that you
called
used?
disproportionality.
So you want to break that down before she goes into this stats?
Disproportionality, I used to say it's Ronson, it is what it says on the tin. Disproportionality means that for the percentage that we make up of the population, we are disproportionately overrepresented in certain sectors of society. So criminal justice, mental health, employment, the whole, and this relates again to the institutional systemic racism and the things that are there. So all of these things are factors that contribute to our well-being. So not only do we have to fight the fight, but there's structures in place to make the fight harder. And that's when it can affect you as a person, where it impacts your mental well-being. So you're not feeling, like if I got a bad leg, I go to the doctor, my foot I bone me, I've one cramp on my foot with me. So if I've got bad thoughts, like I'm feeling negative, I should be able to say, doctor, I'm thinking about harming myself, or I've got this anger towards my ex-partner, or to my mum, or to my dad, and the same way so we don't do that. So we're disproportionately underrepresented in talking therapies. So in everything else, we're overrepresented. When it comes to talking therapies, we're underrepresented. So we don't access talking therapies.
So this is counselling, yes. Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. Before you go ahead, Susie, I want to read this because why are we talking about Enfield? Yeah, there's a reason. Let me explain the reason. You just met George, right? George is a young man. You can see based on his testimony that he's a powerful young man. But a lot of that power came from his journey, his pain, from his past. And he was placed in a home that didn't have all the tools, but they provided. That man, his Uncle Phil, which was my dad, he was one of the first Black men foster carers in Enfield. And he was a foster carer for 40 years in Enfield with his wife, who's passed away, my mother. But that wasn't the norm then. That wasn't the norm for a man to take on the role. And even though he had a wife, he took on the lead role, as normally it would be the wife or the woman that will take on that nurturing leadership role in the home. But he took on that role. But you can't do what you're not. You can't give what you don't have. You understand what I'm trying to say to you? He gave as much as he had. And what he had was the ability to say, you know what, I'm going to provide a roof over your head. I'm going to provide consistency. I'm going to provide an example of strength and structure. Yeah. And whether we like it or not, as men, we need that. Because as he said, he never went prison. He never went on drugs. He never went to places where he could have went if he never had that structure. So I thank God for Uncle Philip, because, it's men like that are dying out now. And now we're getting to a place where men are, we don't even know who we are no more. I'm trying to say we're losing identity, we're losing direction, we're losing passion, we're losing our position. I'm trying to say to you, our position in society is not even respected, especially Black men. We don't even, you might want to have one or two like you, Scotty, that's qualified, experienced, can able to articulate himself, but that's not the normal. You know what I'm trying to say to you? That's not the normal. Yeah. So I just want to talk about the system, yeah? And you talked about disproportionality. I want to talk about racism. I'm trying to say to you, you might say it's the same, but this is a definition of racism that I got from Dr. Umar Johnson. I don't know if anybody know Dr. Umar.
You know Dr. Umar.
Yes.
Dr. Umar Johnson said this. Racism is a group system of discrimination, oppression, and exploitation. Bias, where one group seeks to deny members of another group with fair share of opportunities, resources, and privileges. Yeah? Do you want me to read it again, or you got that?
I got it.
You got that. And I want to lay that foundation before you go into these next stats, because it means a lot.
Yeah, I think, thanks for that description, because, you know, some people don't understand what racism means or the true terminology. So I'm glad you run that by the listeners, you know, just for them to get an understanding. I mean, again, going back to us in regards to mental health and racial disparities for the Black community in Enfield in 2024, the mental health it's been a persistent issue in Enfield, particularly affecting Black communities. And here are some key points which are related to mental health disparities in this area. So some of the research just suggests that people from Black communities are at a higher risk of developing mental health problems, but are less likely to receive adequate support. And other reports, like the Mental Health Racial Disparities Report, highlight these persistent disparities and recommend actions for health agencies and professionals. But again, if, you know, there's no information or people don't know where to go, how to access these services, then, you know, we're just going to have the same problem. We're going to be going round and round in circles. So, you know, addressing these disparities requires a collaborative effort and targeted resources and culturally appropriate, as you know, like I know you like to say that on the show there, Marlo, culturally appropriate interventions, you know. So we need to continue to work towards, you know, an equitable mental health support for all communities, much less our own. Marlo, you know, in regards to the Legacy Foundation again, and what you're doing for the Legacy Foundation.
Yeah, so thank you, Sue. When I came from Jamaica, Scotty, Mark, we lived in Tottenham. We're in Tottenham right now, and my dad was a twin, his sister, we lived in a 1-bedroom flat, all of us, my 2 sisters, my mother, my dad, until he could find a place for us, you understand? He managed to find a house in Edmonton, which was seen to be moving on up in life. You're going up to a upper class area. You understand what I'm saying? 'Cause from Broadwater Farm, you couldn't really get much lower in terms of that estate at the time. You understand? However, when we moved up to Edmonton, it was very racist. And I had a brethren called Glenn Jones, God rest his soul. It was about 13, Glenn was about 15, 16, something like that. And we went to a club called Ponders End Club, and some skinheads stabbed him and killed him. That same club, now my brother's got a boxing gym in that same club now. You understand? So things have changed. Things have changed, but there's so much more to do. Does it make sense?
The change is slow.
The change is slow because the racism is different now. It's more sophisticated now. You know what I'm trying to say to you? It's not always violence. You know what I'm trying to say to you? Sometimes the violence can come passively and can come intelligently or covertly. Does it make sense? And so it's important that we, so you want to say something? It's important that we as Legacy partner with the specialists like yourselves. You know, when I look at George, right? George to me is a handsome young man, looks like Black Jesus. You would never know, just looking at him, the stereotype that he's a therapist, he's a life coach, he's qualified, he's got his bachelor's in science, you know what I'm saying? And so he can relate to young people the way some of these systems can't. You understand? So we need to shine a light on people like yourselves using these spaces so we can say, look, we can be a part of the solution. We can be a part of addressing some of the problems because we understand the needs, we have the lived experience, and we have the skills and knowledge, and we can culturally, competently address some of these needs. You understand? Because we've been through it. Does it make sense? All right, so that's what Legacy is about. So we've been partnering with organizations like Locomotion, with the youth service, youth offending teams, NHS, even the police. we've been working with, because we understand that a lot of crime, domestic violence, a lot of exclusion, isolation is down to mental ill health. You understand? So we're working with families, re-education, new information, awareness, and modeling the process, because healing is not a 6-session process. You understand?
No, it's not.
It's going to happen over.
I just wanted to add something. Because when you talked about racism, and Susie was talking about, when we're looking at racism, we got to look at it at different tiers. So you got systemic institutional racism. That's where you're looking at policies, government, judicial systems. Then you got organizational racism. So if you look at the NHS, there was a case in Liverpool, I think it was last year, black woman giving birth, said she was feeling pain. She died. She wasn't given the care because unconsciously, as an organization, black people can take more pain. And then you got individual racism. So this is a question that people ask us as black people. Can we be racist? And the answer is no. We can be prejudiced.
Of course.
But racism means you have the ability to stop that person doing what they want to do as function.
Lifestyle,
And I'm afraid we can have racism. No, I don't think we have the power to stop other people. So something that I say to people, do what is in your sphere of influence. Don't think about institutional racism, because if you think about all of that, you just feel, just bust your head. How can I make a difference? What can I do? So if I know as a therapist, one of the impacts of institutional and systemic and organizational racism is that black men don't access mental health. As an individual, I can promote access to therapy. As an individual, you can promote access to support systems. Mark, that's what you're doing. Mark is doing some wonderful thing with young people. You know, in my course on Big Food. And as you said, Susie, individually, we can all do our bit. We can hand down some of our traditions and our morals. We can also inspire people to have a relationship with the Father, because that is important. Because everyone that has sat on this platform has given testimony to their relationship with the Father. And I'm not talking about church. I'm talking about your individual relationship with the kingdom within.
Let me tell you something, bro. Let me tell you something. Right now, I've been observing Ramadan for the last 2 weeks, my 3rd week, yeah? So that means I've been fasting from 4 o'clock in the morning till 6 at night in the evening, yeah? Sun up, sun down. But I'm not a Muslim, yeah? My parents lean towards Christianity, yeah? But I've got people around me that are into new age, them call it new age, what? Religion or energy, yeah? I've got different people that have different outlooks, yeah? And so what I do now, I try to, I see life as a feast and a table that you can learn from different people if you're open. You see what I'm trying to say to you? I believe there's one way to God, yeah? And he will reveal that way to you, yeah? When your heart, when time and chance meet, yeah? When it's the right time, you will see God will reveal himself to you. You know what I'm trying to say to you? And it will be different from how he reveals himself to you. You see what I'm trying to say to you?
100%.
And so when he does reveal himself to you, you have a responsibility. You know what I'm trying to say to you? Yeah, any man that says that they've never had a spiritual encounter, then they're lying to themselves. You know what I'm trying to say to you? Because we are trichotomy. We're more spirit man than we are physical man. You know what I'm trying to say? We have a conscience, we have a spirit, we have a heart, we have a intellect, we have a mind. Yeah, these are spiritual attributes to our being. Yeah, so if that's ill, if that's unwell, yeah, we're not functioning to our maximum. We're not presenting our best self. You get what I'm trying to say to you? And so I think programs like this, services that we're going to develop after this, is going to help men show up the best at the best version of themselves. You understand? Whether it's to be a father, whether it's to be a son, whether it's to be an uncle. Yeah, my little brother passed away, and I never got a son, but he had a son. So right now, that's my son. And he's sitting in the studio right now. Yeah. Yes, he call me uncle and all that, but the way I see him as a blessing. Is my son. Yeah. He sleeps in my bed, he eats my food. I'm trying to say to you, because that's part of my healing of grief. I'm trying to say, and bereavements. Makes sense. Sometimes, you know, we have to use the opportunities that present themselves even through the pain and turn the pain into a power. You know what I'm trying to say, or a purpose. You understand? So I thank God for you, and I think this information, we're going to have to do something with it. Is there any more?
There is. It's
you
just
got
one,
more?
just one last snippet I've got here.
Yeah.
And I actually found this on the 26th of March. And this is the latest Care Quality Commission, which is short for CQC.
Yeah.
Sorry, the CQC.
Know them well.
Yeah, know them very well as well. Right. Okay. So it's a report which exposes the long-awaited racial inequalities and understaffing, in mental health care. So it says that the Care Quality Commission recently released a report revealing significant failings in the mental health services. It says part of this report underscores ongoing racial disparities in mental health care. Black or Black British people are significantly more likely, and this is over 3.5 times more likely, to be detained under the Mental Health Act and or placed on community treatment orders than their white counterparts. The lack of staff and beds also lead to isolation, poor care quality, and reduced access to activities and therapy, with a particular lack of suitable community accommodations for autistic individuals and those with learning disabilities, which, you know, there is quite a rise on influx, as I work with young people as well, of young people who have autistic or, you know, learning disabilities and difficulties. So they're also starting to come to the forefront of having that need for support. Additionally, there's an increased risk of inappropriate restraint and violence. And they went on to say that the CQC's updated policies call for a reduction in restrictive practices and an improved human rights approach. However, the much needed amendments to the Mental Health Act proposed in the draft mental health bill have not been prioritized by the government. So it's not a priority, bearing in mind which collective of people has the highest numbers of needing that support. And despite an increase in the nursing workforce, and the specific needs of mental health care remains unaddressed, highlighting an urgent need for a comprehensive NHS workforce plan to meet the critical care needs of those with mental health conditions. One last snippet is other mental health disparities for Black British community in 2024 is that the Black British community remain a significant concern in 2024. The discussions around mental health in this community often highlight the impact of racism and discrimination, as well as the challenges of cultural identity and accessing appropriate mental health services. The Black British community faces unique mental health challenges, including adultification. It's quite a new word to my word. Adultification bias. Yes, I came across it the other day, which can lead to young Black individuals
What's
being
that mean?
treated as a. I'm reading it.
Oh, sorry.
What it means. It's like what it means. It's when you lead young Black people, young Black individuals, to being treated in a more mature manner than what they actually are.
Sorry, Susie. We just break it down slightly.
Go on then, Mark. Yeah.
Adultification is simple. This when police see and they see it more with Black youths. I wouldn't look at you at 16. You may have looked possibly the same, but without the beard and whatever. He looks older than his age. It's like that darts player, the white darts player that got famous the other day was 16 and looked 35. That's adultification. So the police would see him in a position where they think he's doing something wrong. And instead of dealing with him as a 16-year-old or a 15-year-old, they deal with him as 18 plus. Because vision, he looks an adult. So we deal with him. We'll rough him up even more. We'll put the cuffs on tighter. And that all came out in the Child Q issue that came out when they dealt with her, even though they went to the school and know that she was a schoolgirl, because she didn't look like some of the average schoolgirls
Yeah,
of her age,
mhm.
they dealt with her differently.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
mean,
where
it says it
comes
here.
from.
It says that black individuals were treated as
Frank.
more mature than they are, potentially impacting their mental health
Yes.
and interaction with law enforcement. So,
That's
just
right.
backing up what you're saying there,
Yeah.
okay? And it says, additionally, the community is affected by the ongoing crisis of knife crime, which is another one of my passions, which has a profound impact on mental health. And efforts to address these disparities, including overhauling the mental health system to make it less discriminatory towards black people. This includes introducing a patient and carers race equality framework across all NHS mental health trusts and developing culturally appropriate advocates to support patients from all ethnic backgrounds. And despite these efforts, reports suggest that black and Asian people find it harder to access these services anyway, in compared to other counterparts or other ethnic backgrounds, indicating the need for continued focus on improving access and outcome for minority communities. So therefore, it's crucial to continue raising awareness and advocating for equitable mental health support, and for our community, and just ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to receive the care that they need in a culturally sensitive and respectful manner.
Okay.
Yeah.
Looking at the time,
We've got
Yeah,
five.
that's that,
we've
yeah.
got little
Well,
few
We've got a
minutes.
few
Yeah.
minutes.
Beautiful.
What I would
Yeah.
like to say simply
Interesting.
is this. What Uncle Phil done, I've never met your dad and I feel like I know him now. Uncle Phil. But you see what he done, and he didn't have all the right tools, but he had some of the tools. But the main tool that he had was to make sure that you grew up in a black household. Yeah? Because if there wasn't guys like him around and they were few and far between, you'd have been farmed out to somewhere in Surrey. And your whole outlook would be even more messed up. So in saying, when Susie's reading out all of those statistics, what comes to mind is that one thing, all of us collectively as a community, as black people, if we want change, we have to get involved. We can't sit down here and vote for who we think charms us because they want the vote. We have to actively get involved if you want to make the change. You got to be in it to win it. If we're not in it, if we're not on the panels, if we're not on the governing boards, if we're not visible, then change happens around us and we can't, make an impact on it. So we all, at any level, school governors board, whatever, we have to, as black people, as a community, get involved. If we don't get involved, don't complain when legislations, laws, changes are passed and we can't do anything about it. Simple.
I agree as well. And what I was thinking is that I believe in small government. I don't believe in big government. I don't think that the government or the NHS or anyone should really be coming to save anyone's lives. You know what I mean?
100.
It's there. It's a good thing that it's there, but it's not the be all and end all.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? I believe in the individual and the power of the individual, family first, and then community. And it is about what we do as individuals to make an impact. And we have to take responsibility. A lot of black people are ignorant. Like earlier on, you said
Accountability.
you said that we're in the information era, but I said ignorant. Because a lot of them, they're just ignorant. These lot are living, they're perpetuating the stereotypes. These lot are moving nonsense
mad.
with the raving,
nonsense.
the partying,
Talk
all
about prioritize the raving.
all of the baby mother
That's
drama,
another show.
all of the baby father drama, all of the
That's
absent
another show.
favoritism. All of these things is perpetuating racial stereotypes. There's no wonder that everyone has got mental health problems because you're constantly doing the things that you know is nonsense.
No nonsense. And
So there's no point having the information if we don't have the revelation.
Exactly.
Well, look how long this has been going on
We
for.
can give all the information,
Yeah.
we can have the stats and statistics, but until these guys in their own minds have that information for real revelation, it makes sense to
Real
them.
talk.
That's the only time that it's really
you
going to
know
make a difference.
what you're saying there is someone said this to me once, for someone to digest information, they have to have the ability of comprehension. Of what does this mean?
They have to understand.
Curiosity and ignorancy breeds total oblivion to the reality. I'm
And
aware
also-
of time.
Also, the wisdom to apply it, the application as well, because you can have knowledge, you can have sense, knowledge with no sense. You get what I'm trying to say to you? Yeah.
Knowledge and nonsense.
No way to execute.
Knowledge and nonsense.
Big
I'm
Kiara-
aware
Big Kiara
because
and Kiara.
Marlo. No, first of all,
Thank you.
Susie, pleasure meeting you today. Thank you for your research. Thank you for going out on the street and comprising a survey and speaking to random men and collecting that information. Thank you for doing your research today and enlightening us and the audience with some real clean statistical data. George, got it. Yeah, after the show, I'm gonna have to give you because you're an inspiring young man. I'm not saying that because I'm not bluffing. This man, he's an inspiring, and I know he's gonna be great things. Mark, I know we got my bridge in Mark Friday playing. I take.
You ain't hugging me.
No, no, I give you 5. And from myself, it's been a pleasure, like sitting with you guys and dancing. Milo, I'm gonna give you the outro.
Wow, what can we say? It's been a pleasure. My dad always says, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And we're not gonna be ungrateful for the foundation that was laid, because it's got us to where we are now. You know what I'm saying? And it's for us now. It's like a relay race. Legacy is like a relay race. That generation run their course. They passed the baton on to us. Now we have to run our course, and we're passing the baton on to George's generation, and then George will pass it on to Jose's generation, and that's how it's got to go. You understand? One man plant, one man water, but God bring the increase. You understand? We don't have all the answers. You understand? But we just play our part. You get me? So I thank you, the audience, for taking part, listening. And I'm hoping we can get some of your interactions and your feedback, because we're going to compile a report and that looks at all of the conversations, all of the key findings, all of the summary, and see if we can come up with some real solutions around this, because it's needed, especially in Enfield and in Northwest, South, East,
all across our communities, across the UK.
Globally.
We need to do what we need to do.
Globally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So thank you all.
Thank you guys
Susie.
out there in television world or
And
Facebook
thank you,
or whatever.
George.
Yeah.
Thank you, yes. Thank you, audience.
And big up me at studio. Big up me at studio.
Myriad Studio.
Myriad Studio. So boom,
Theo
bam,
and
turn
his
it on.
team. Theo and his team, thank you very much. Locomotion, thank you very much for sponsoring us and believing in us. Thank you, Legacy Foundation. And look out for the Legacy Gala this year. It's going to be in the Meridian Grand. It's an award-winning venue down in London. And reach out to me if you want to be a part of that experience. It's going to be amazing. 7th of December, 2024. God bless you.
Right.